At the beginning of the story, we're shown a child named Thor Heyerdahl. There is some water rising in the middle of the ice, on which there are 2 ice slabs, and on the other ice slab there is a saw. None of the children want to go there, but Thor goes, although all the children forbid him. When he is coming back, his foot slips in the water, and he starts drowning, but then a child pulls him out of the water. Thor is brought home, and Thor's father says to him, "I think you have learned a lesson. Promise me that you will never take such a risk in life," but Thor does not answer this. Now, time passes, and the year comes to 1937. He has grown up a little. He is a stenographer and an adventurer who is on the beach of Polynesia. Polynesia is very beautiful. It is said that this is a place where there are more than 1,000 islands. However, some of these islands are separate countries in themselves, while most of the islands are owned by other countries. Thor now lives here. He studies the life and people here, and one day, when Thor is sitting with his girlfriend near an old man, he asks him, "Where did your ancestors come from?" The old man says that their god brought them to this island from a place on the other side of the ocean, to the east. He also points in that direction.
Thor is surprised by this.
The old man says, "Everything comes from the east, the sun, wind, everything. Our ancestors came from the east to the south, meaning they started their journey from where the sun rises and walked in the direction where the sun sets. After that, the old man takes them to a place where there is a statue of a very old god, their tiki god, indicating that the people who live on these islands came from Asia. However, the old man does not know much about this. He only tells what he has heard from his ancestors, meaning that their ancestors did not come from Asia, but from South America. Thor is completely surprised by this. Now, the year shown is 1946. Thor has been conducting research on this island for the last 10 years. He has written many theories and goes to a publisher. After spending 10 years on the islands of Polynesia and living with the people there, he concludes that the old man was right. The people on the Polynesian islands did not come from Asia, but from South America. He meets a publisher, but the publisher refuses to publish his theory and book. He says that to this day, it is only believed that the people living on the Polynesian islands came from Asia. You cannot prove your theory because 1,500 years ago, the people of South America did not have boats or technology to travel such a long distance, whereas the Asians did. That is why no one will believe your theory. Thor says that they came via a raft. The publisher laughs and says, "If you have this theory and this evidence, then do one thing. Go to Polynesia. If you can do this, that too via a raft, then I will publish your book and theory." The publisher actually says this because crossing such a big ocean with a raft is almost impossible. It is a long journey, and with the kind of waves in the ocean, a small raft cannot cross it. Thor has only one way to prove his theory. He must travel from South America to the island of Polynesia, a journey of more than 8,000 kilometers, through an ocean where even big ships sink. Thor wants to approach a magazine and says he will travel 8,000 kilometers from South America to Polynesia on a wooden raft, the same type used 1,500 years ago. There will be no facilities, no safety. The magazine people refuse to fund him, saying, "We do not fund suicide missions." Even a small school child knows that the islands of Polynesia were discovered by Asians, not South Americans. However, Thor argues that before Columbus reached America, people from South America had already reached the islands of Polynesia. From there, Thor goes to a restaurant where some professional sailors who have spent significant time at sea are gathered. Thor shows them a sketch of a raft and says its name is Kontiki, and we 5 people will travel from Peru to Polynesia, a distance of more than 8,000 kilometers. There is a man here who says, "I have lived on a raft in the Atlantic Ocean for 22 days, and it is impossible to make this journey because you can't control a small raft in the sea, you can't see its direction, and the design you have made, the wood you will put in its base tied with ropes, will break within a few days, leaving us trapped in the sea. There, we can only wait for one thing, death." There is a man sitting in the restaurant named Herman. Herman listens to their conversation, goes to Thor, and says, "I liked your idea of the raft very much. I would like to join you." Thor asks, "Are you a sailor?" Herman replies, "No, but you aren't a sailor either." He explains that he is an engineer but currently sells refrigerators. Thor includes him in his team, and in this way, Thor finds the first member of his team. However, the biggest problem remains funding. At home, Thor calls his wife, Liv, and says, "I will not be able to come home for Christmas because I am going directly to Peru." His wife forbids him from doing this. Thor says, "If I do not do this, then I am finished. I have given 10 years of my life to this theory, and I must do this." His wife reminds him, You do not even know how to swim, and your children are also with you, but he is determined to fulfill his dream. Therefore, he does not return home for Christmas and goes directly to Peru. In Peru, Thor and his team prepare for the journey. There are 5 people in total. Thor shows them large logs and says, "We will make a raft using these logs," following the exact methods used 1,500 years ago when people made rafts to reach Polynesia. They cannot make any changes or use any modern technology, as that would disprove their claim. They need significant funding for food and other supplies. Thor approaches a wealthy man and tells him, "I want to prove that the people of Polynesia originally came from South America." The man is surprised but agrees to fund Thor's expedition. The news of their journey is printed in the newspaper, and a photographer joins Thor's team to cover their journey to Peru. The raft is constructed, and many people gather at the seashore to bid them farewell, convinced that they will never see them again due to the dangerous journey ahead. The team sets off on the wooden raft built in the 1,500-year-old style, with some food items, a small safety boat, and a radio. The raft slowly begins to drift into the depths of the ocean. One night, while they are all sleeping, a violent storm hits. When Thor is trying to remove the sail of the raft, he falls into the water. Thor does not know how to swim, but his companions pull him back onto the raft, saving his life. The next morning, when the sea calms down, they see that their raft has sustained significant damage, and they repair it once again. By now, they have been on the raft for 4 full days and are slowly making progress toward their destination. However, crossing the ocean is not easy. At one point, they spot a large whale in the middle of the sea. When they start filming it, Herman, Thor's first companion, becomes frightened as the whale swims right beneath the raft. He grabs a sharp weapon with a rope tied to it and prepares to throw it. His companion tells him to stop, but he does not listen and throws it, hitting the whale's body. The whale dives underwater, and because the weapon is tied to a rope, the raft starts spinning, but it narrowly avoids sinking. Herman and another companion argue over this, but Thor intervenes and says, "No one on this raft will speak out of turn. If anyone has something to say, I will be the one to say it, as I am in charge of this raft." As the days pass, the radio stops working, and they lose the ability to contact anyone. Herman's mother's condition begins to worry him. He starts to suspect that the logs are absorbing water, and that the ropes binding them will eventually break, dooming them all to drown. These fears echo what the man in the restaurant had warned about, and now they haunt Herman's mind. The cameraman, who is on the raft to document everything, sits on the safety boat to film from a distance. While recording, a large shark appears in the water. Sharks surround the raft, capable of attacking and killing them at any moment. But before the shark attacks, Thor spots it, and he quickly pulls the rope and brings the man onto the boat, saving his life. But in the sea, death is everywhere. Danger is constant. One of the men has a parrot, and the parrot goes and sits on the water. Then a shark comes and eats the parrot, which makes the man feel very sad. When the same shark comes near their raft, they catch it by its tail, pull it up together, and kill it. Blood starts dripping into the water, which attracts other sharks to their raft, and soon they begin circling around them. Herman becomes frightened and brings out a box containing long steel wires. He tells Thor, "There is only one way to save ourselves. We must tie up the raft. Otherwise, none of us will survive." But Thor insists, "We will do this the way people did 1,500 years ago," and throws the steel wires away. Herman, in a panicked state, slips and falls into the water. Before the sharks can make him their prey, he is pulled back onto the raft. After being saved, Herman apologizes to everyone, knowing he made a mistake. The biggest problem they face is that they still don't know if they're on the right path. Their navigator, Eric, mentions that they might not be heading in the right direction, but Thor is confident they are. After such a long journey, all of them are mentally and physically exhausted. One day, Eric, who has a basic navigation gadget, does all the calculations and comes to Thor, announcing that they are indeed on the right path and heading toward Polynesia. After nearly 3 months, Joy returns to the raft for the first time. They all hug each other, and at the same time, their radio starts working. They send a coded message to the outside world, explaining how 1,500 years ago, people from Peru reached Polynesia on a wooden raft. When this news reaches the outside world, it creates a sensation as it challenges all the previous theories about the history of Polynesia. On August 7, 1947, after spending 101 days on the raft, one of them spots a bird flying in the sky early in the morning. The sight of the bird makes them all ecstatic because it signifies that land is nearby and they are close to their destination. Soon, they see an island in the distance, the very island they were trying to reach. However, reaching it requires them to face huge waves, which is not an easy task. Herman calculates and tells everyone, every 13th wave is higher than the previous 12 waves. We need to drop the anchors and lift them just before the 13th wave so that we can ride the big wave to the shore. They drop the anchors, but by the 10th wave, their rope breaks and they start drifting with the current. However, luck is on their side, and they manage to reach the shore safely. In this way, they complete a journey once thought impossible. These 6 men not only make history but also rewrite it. The journey proves that with positive thinking, faith in oneself, and complete dedication to one's goals, no task is insurmountable. This is why a person should always move forward with a positive mindset. With this, the movie ends. So that's it. Hope you enjoy the story. Subscribe and press the bell icon for more videos.